What is it about our dreams that some consider profound? Can our dreams inform our daily lives, and can they also be prophetic? Are our dreams a doorway into other realms where we can talk with our spirit guides and with deceased family members? Are there things we can do to have more lucid and meaningful dreams? Join me and three-time cancer survivor, radio host, and co-author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases, Kathleen O Keefe Kanavos, as we explore these questions and more. Well, greetings and welcome, fellow truth seekers. You are listening to Passion for the Paranormal, bringing a passion for the paranormal to you. I'm your host, Curry Stegan, and so wonderful to be back here with you once again. And I'm always excited on the show to cover a new topic, and tonight is a topic I've never covered before, and it is the topic of dreams. And I've got an amazing guest joining me. Her name is Kathleen O Keefe Kanavos, and Kathleen has been a guest on the famous Dr. Oz show. She is an author and radio host, and most importantly, she had a dream that she believes informed her about her cancer situation and helped her to get properly diagnosed. And she also is going to talk to us about how to tap into our dreams and how perhaps they can help us to tap into the spiritual realm. So it's so exciting to have Kathleen joining me on the show. If you have not been over to the website, please head over there and pay it a visit at passion, the number 4, theparanormal.com. Also, make sure you pay a visit to us on Facebook at facebook.com/passion, the number 4, the paranormal, and make sure you like and follow us there. Make sure on whatever podcast app you're using, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And that really helps our numbers and really helps us to get better noticed and helps the show to keep moving forward. The other thing I wanted to mention is if you know of a family member, a friend, coworker who you think you would like tuning into the show, please share a link with them and let them know about it. We'd really appreciate that if you do that. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into this discussion with Kathleen. It's one that I'm really excited to be delving into, and really hope you enjoy tonight's show, and thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so my guest tonight is Kathleen O Keefe Kanavos, and Kathleen was born to a military family, raised in Europe, and has a degree in special education. She taught special education for 10 years, as well as psychology at the University of South Florida. She is a 3-time breast cancer survivor and is a TV and radio show host and producer, hosting the Dreaming Healing radio show. She has been a guest on the famous Dr. Oz show and the very popular radio talk show Coast to Coast AM. She is also co-author of the book Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight.
Well, thank you so much, Curry, for having me here. I've been looking forward to being on Passion for the Paranormal all week. I love paranormal shows.
It's exciting to have you on the show. What an amazing story you have. And just for the listeners, maybe if you can take us back, because this is just quite a fascinating experience you had as a result of your dreams and how this kind of led to your diagnosis. But can you go into that backstory for us a little bit about how that all took place?
Sure. You know, it was back in 1999 actually, and it was I was living on Cape Cod, Massachusetts at the time, and I had gone in for my, monthly mammogram, blood tests, physical exams, all that stuff, and all of my paperwork came back as being healthy, and the doctors didn't need to see me for another year. And about that time, I started having these really bizarre dreams. And in the dream, while I was enjoying my dream, it would suddenly stop or freeze, just like a page on your computer. And then in that frozen page would pop up a window, just like on your computer. And that window turned into a door, and through that door walked a Franciscan monk dressed in a long brown hooded robe with a knotted rope belt and leather sandals. I mean, I could see all the detail on him. And he walked up to me and he said, "Come with me, we have something to tell you." And I'm like standing there going, this is bizarre. Is this a dream? I mean, what just happened? So I followed him through that pop-up window that had become a door into what I call the room between realms. And it's a place that is neither of the living nor the dead. It's a parallel universe of consciousness, and I believe we can all access it. And waiting there for me were two other monk guides. And one of the monks takes my hands, places it on my breast, and he says, "You have cancer right here. Feel it?" And I did. I could feel it in the dream. And he said, "Go back to your doctor tomorrow without an appointment and ask for a second set of tests." So I did. This happened 3 times. This was a recurrent dream, the same dream over and over again. So when the Franciscan monk showed up in my dream the 3rd time, as soon as I saw him, I started crying. And I said, the doctors won't listen to me tomorrow any more than they did yesterday or the times before. They just keep giving me the same tests over and over again, tell me I'm happy, and send me home. So if I really do have breast cancer and you want me to live, help me. So this monk reaches into his enormous sleeve and he pulls out this tiny white feather, no bigger than one that you would see escape from a pillow and land on your bedroom floor, and he hands it to me. And he says, "If you use this feather as a sword to fence with your doctor in his battles with you, because he doesn't want to give you the test you need, you'll win against the scientific facts, supposedly, that are telling you you're healthy. You need exploratory surgery. And if you present your case to the doctors as though you were an attorney standing in front of an incredulous judge who really dislikes you, you're going to win." Because really, by now, I'd made a total pain in the butt of myself with the doctors. And then the monk turns around and he walks out of my dream. And the sacred doorways close, but right behind him. And my previous dream would always start right back up where it had left off, as if someone had taken my computer page off pause. And that's because it was like time had stood still beyond time and space while these monks delivered their life-saving message to me in this esoteric dream plane. So long story short, I returned to my doctor and I used that feather. I imagined that feather and I got him to do exploratory surgery. I was in stage 2 with it in a lymph node.
Wow. That is just unbelievable. That is mind-blowing. I'm curious because I know you've talked about this concept of spirit guides and how they can, I think, meet us in our dreams. How about prior to this experience you had? Where were you in the metaphysical realm? Did you believe in this stuff prior to this experience? Were you having these kind of lucid dreams that, impacted your life even before this experience?
Well, I've always been a great dreamer, and I was one of those children who started kindergarten early. My mother was a nurse. My dad was in Special Forces, Green Beret. So he was gone a lot of the time. We never knew where he was, and my mom was working. So I started kindergarten at 4. And one of the first things that really made my parents realize something was different about me was I was coloring people's auras around them. So the principal called my parents in for a parent-teacher conference and told them that they thought that there was something wrong with my eyes. So my parents took me to an ophthalmologist who tested my eyes and said, there's nothing wrong with her eyes. She's just doing this for attention. And then he turned to me and he said, "Young lady, you stop this. You color inside the lines like everybody else, and you don't color people funny colors." So that's the first time I realized no one else could see auras. So I got out my black crayon in order to, fit into that box that they want you to fit into in school. I outlined all of my pictures with black crayon, and I colored inside those lines. And if I wasn't really sure about what I was coloring. I looked at everybody else's papers around me and I just copied their colors. So I didn't have spirit guides then, although I did have an imaginary friend named Gigi. Now, did Gigi, who was a little 8-year-old boy, did he morph into a monk? I don't know. But that was the first time I ever had monks marching into my dreams and taking me into a room between realms where I could speak with the living and the dead.
Wow. And what you just mentioned there seems to be a common experience with people that have extra, I don't know if you want, I'll say extrasensory abilities, for lack of a better term. This tendency for people to tell them, this is not something natural. You should not be doing this, whether it's parents or other peers. And so, this is a common theme, seems like a common theme among people that have special abilities like you. And it's unfortunate because it seems to have this effect of, the person wanting to pull back and not wanting to delve into those special abilities anymore. So it's interesting how that kind of plays out, and the way I've kind of heard that similar theme in other stories.
No, you're absolutely right. And so what I did when I think the first time I realized I could hear and speak with the dead was when I was maybe 2. I was able to talk a little bit. I remember my mother was reading me a Peter Cottontail book, and I didn't know how to read yet. And I was sitting on her lap, and I kept squirming around and looking around the room. And she said, "Kath, what are you doing?" And I said, "Someone's calling my name. And I can't find them. I can't see them, but I can hear them." And my mom just looked at me and said, "Oh, it's just your grandparents telling you they love you." Well, I knew my grandparents were dead. So if my grandparents were dead, but they were still calling to me, although I didn't really know what dead was at that time, but if it didn't bother my mom, it didn't bother me. So I went back to listening to the story and just ignored the dead. But I think that was one of the first signs that my mom realized that I had gotten the gift of speaking with the dead from my grandfather. He used to be a spiritualist and a trapeze artist in the Barnum and Bailey Circus. So it skipped her generation and landed on me. And she immediately said, "You never, ever tell anyone you can hear dead people. You don't tell them you can see dead people. You color inside the lines. You don't tell your teachers or anybody else about this. You keep it quiet or you'll get in a lot of trouble and I'll be really angry." So I immediately took all those gifts, which they were. If I could have found the return window, I would have given them back. But I took those gifts and I locked them away in a closet. And it really was not until my life was in danger from the misdiagnoses by the medical community that my spirit guides blew that door off and came to my rescue and said, "Hey, we're back. Here we are. You go back to your doctors. You get a second set of tests. And hey, you don't take no for an answer. And don't even bother to make an appointment. Just show up." So I did.
Interesting. Talk about this concept of how dreams can inform us about our daily lives. I know you talk about that in your book, and I heard you talk a little bit about that in the other interview, but can you kind of delve into that for us a little bit about how dreams help inform us in our daily lives?
Well, I really do believe that we are all born dreamers. Dreaming is an innate gift. Everything alive dreams. Our kittens dream, our puppies dream, our birds dream. I wouldn't be surprised if trees dreamed. I mean, I really wouldn't. I believe that dreams are the sacred doorways that connect us to the divine. And it's a way our spirit guides can make sure that we're on our right path for our purpose in life and guard us from making mistakes that could cut our life short and not allow us to fulfill our destiny. And the reason that I really say that is, Curry, I had a dream the second time the doctors missed my diagnosis. Now, this is like 5 years later. After the first one, I ended up going through chemotherapy and radiation therapy, and I think it's important to tell your listeners that my spirit guides did not say go find Swami Wami Rama Lama Ding Dong and get a holistic treatment. They said, you go back to your doctors. And I always wondered, why the heck were they doing that? Why would I go back to people who are annoyed with me, are not celebrating me being there, are using the same tests over and over again, and want me to just go get lost? But they kept saying, you go back to your doctors, you go back to your doctors. And it wasn't until the second time when the chiefs of everybody were watching me, and again, they were using mammograms to watch for recurrence and missed a 9 by 11 centimeter cancerous area that was finally picked up on MRIs when my spirit guides, the monks, started coming back into my dreams and saying, you don't take no for an answer. You be a pain in the butt if you need to be a pain in the butt, but you get that MRI. And so I told my doctor in his office, hey, I'm not leaving your office till you set up that MRI appointment for me. I'm going to lie down here on your floor like a 2-year-old who's had candy taken away. I'm going to kick my feet and scream. You're going to have to call security to drag me out by my heels. And as I'm going out the front door, I'm going to be on my cell phone to Channel 2 News so they can meet us as you're dragging me across the street. So I got my appointment, but my doctors were not happy. They did not like me anymore, but the MRI showed that I had this ginormous 9 by 11 centimeter tumorous area, which is basically stage 4 terminal. And so once the pathology report came in validating my dreams with the monks that the cancer was back, I was crying all the time. I never knew anybody who survived cancer that was that big, and especially not recurrence. So I fell asleep on the bed one afternoon when I was crying. I literally cried myself to sleep. I didn't want my husband to see me, so I went back in the bedroom, and I was just lying on the bed crying. And I fell asleep, and I dreamed that I woke up from my nap, and standing next to the bed were the 3 monks. And they were looking down at me, and I looked up at them, and I said, look, I know why you're here. I got it. I know I'm dying, but you may want to warn God before I get up there that I've got some really big bones to pick with him. There's nothing I've done in this lifetime or past lifetimes to deserve this. So you just might want to warn him. And they kind of laughed and they said, Kat, don't you remember? And I said, remember what? They said, you told us before you were born that you wanted to come down onto the earth plane when spirituality, God, our psychic gifts were being shoved away in a closet door, behind a closet door and shut away, and science was being worshipped, and you were going to show that science only goes so far, and then comes our higher power. We told you then we'd be with you every step of the way, and we have been. You're not going to die. And I looked at them and I said, what the heck was I smoking up there when I said that? I must have been out of my mind. But they just turned around and laughed and walked away. And the purpose I'm sharing this dream with your listeners is because sometimes when we have the worst things happen to us in our life and we think that we're a victim of something, it's actually part of our life purpose. We chose it. Yeah, as bizarre as it may sound, we chose it, and our spirit guides are there to make sure that we stay on that path. And my choice was to go into the medical community and show you don't worship science as the alpha and the omega. You listen to people, you listen to your patients, you listen to their dreams, you respect their psychic abilities as being more than just body, their mind, body, soul, and that's what I'm doing.
I'm curious, and it would seem to be the case based on what we've already talked about, but can our dreams really help us at times predict future events?
Oh, absolutely. They do. I mean, I had a dream after this was when I was going through the first breast cancer, and I was thinking, what the heck? And I had a dream where I walked through a door into a waiting area. And there were all these people that I recognized from my other dreams, and they were all aspects of myself because this experience had been so profound to me. It caused a bit of shattering of my personalities. And so instead of being integrated in my dreams, I met all of my inner selves. And I realized we were all working together to get me through this crisis alive. And so I'm standing there looking around the room, and there's one woman I've seen before. She's got a baby on her lap. And I automatically shift into my dream analysis personality in the dream, and I go, that's got to be something new that is going to happen. And all of a sudden the door opens, and a really attractive woman with kind of medium length brown hair and a doctor's white coat walks up to me and goes, hi, my name is Dr. Jules. I'm your physician within. And I shook her hand. I'm looking at her going, wow, that's really cool. And all of a sudden 3 crabs show up out of nowhere. They're running across the floor, and they're heading for a door to the left that leads to the basement where it's dark. I won't be able to find them. And Dr. Jules yells at me, you catch those, catch them. And I go chasing after them and chase them down a flight of stairs, and I realize I'm losing them in the dark, and I scream in my dream, stop. And the 3 crabs stop. And I reach down and I scoop them up in a plastic container filled with water. And I look down at them, and they pull in their claws. They turn into 3 beautiful pearls. And I put the top cover on the top of the container and think to myself, 3 crabs, 3 cancers, 3 pearls? And 5 years later, I had the 3rd cancer. So the dream was telling me I was going to get through all this. My cancers were going to turn into pearls of wisdom. But it was warning me, yeah, if I thought I was really wigged out the second time, it was going to happen again. But it was all predestined, and it was my choice.
It's amazing to think that this concept that we make the decision, even though it may be a very difficult hardship that we're going to experience here on this earth plane, that we actually make that decision to do that and make the decision to come down here and to have some of those difficult experiences. Kathleen, why do you think so many people, and I'm one of these people, I'll be honest, why do you think some of us have such a hard time remembering or recalling our dreams?
Well, it could be a number of things, Curry. It could be that we're so tired when we fall asleep that we fall down into such a deep sleep that as we're coming down, it's almost like a bounce. We come up really fast, and we can't bring the dream with us. The second reason could be medication. Many of us are on medications that actually block the part of the dream, the hypothalamus, where dreams are born. So, it could be that. It could also be that there's nothing that we need to know right now. We're doing everything right. There are times when I dream but I don't remember my dreams. There's not something for my spirit guides to tell me. There's not something for them to guide me on. Maybe I just need to reconnect with my inner selves in order to stay friendly, check in with them, check in with my guides. But it's not really something that I need to bring back out with me into the earth plane because I'm already doing everything right. So it can be reassuring when we don't remember our dreams. But in the book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases, there's a chapter that is called 7 Ways to Remember Your Dreams. And I use the acronym SO DREAM to help the readers remember their dreams. So if you get the book, you can follow those 7 steps, and it may help you connect with your inner guidance, your inner guides, and also remember your dreams so you can write them in your dream journal in order to see if they're coming true.
Interesting. Now, as maybe there's some things, and I know, we don't have a lot of time to cover, but if there's any real quick hints you can give as far as, when we go to sleep, how to clear our minds and to be able to perhaps have a better chance of remembering or having meaningful dreams.
Well, I can go through it really quick with the so dream. The S is to set your intention. Set your dream intention before you go to sleep at night. Voice it verbally or write it on your paper. You can even write it on a little piece of paper, put it into your pillow and sleep on it. Always organize yourself. Have your pencil, paper, your flashlight, your phone, if you're going to record it verbally on your phone, right next to your bed. D is dream. Know you're going to dream. Absolutely, you will dream. It's not that you're not dreaming, it's that you're not remembering. And then R is remain in your position when you wake up so you don't jolt yourself out of the dream and then lose it. E is emote. What parts of the dream elicited emotion from you? You don't have to remember 7 pages of dreams. Sometimes you only need to remember one little thing that was emotional in order to grab the tail of the dream and pull it down into your journal. A is add to it. What colors did you see? Was it day, night? Were there people? Was there talking? Were you alone? M, what do those things mean to you? Underline those things that you just wrote down in your journal that have meaning to you. And then the last thing is give your dream a title so that if during the day you have a daydream that gives you some information from your night dream that you forgot, you know where to go and add it to your journal.
Interesting. Yeah, you talk about this idea that our spirit guides can meet us in our dreams. Is there something we can do intentionally to try and reach out, to try and connect with spirit guides, or even, say, a deceased loved one? I've heard people say, they've spoken with and had communication with deceased loved ones during dreams. So is there something else we can do there to try and make that connection during a dream?
Yeah, yes. It's amazing how our hearts grieve for our deceased loved ones. And sometimes all it takes to be able to have them visit in our dreams once they're ready, because remember, they're grieving the fact that they're not with you. They've had to pass over. They're in a new life on the other side. They've gone back to where they were before they were born, and you're still here. So sometimes that can be your intention that you set, to be able to dream of your loved one. And don't be surprised if when they appear to you in your dream, they're much younger. Remember, they're going to go back to their prime. They're going to leave behind their old or their ill body. And they're going to be in their prime when they're speaking to you in the dream. Now, I know if you actually go to the Dreams That Can Save Your Life Amazon page, in some of the comments, some of the people wrote that when they put the book, they read the book, and then when they put the book next to their bed, for the first time in years, they started dreaming. So there's intention in this book. The dreams by the 30-some patients who shared their deepest, darkest dreams with the readers are so profound that they have a way of unlocking our dream doors in our consciousness. So maybe one of the things that if you're having trouble dreaming, maybe all you need to do is put that book by your bed, set your intention to dream, and wait to see what happens.
Interesting. I also heard you talk about this concept of the fourth and fifth dimensions. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what exactly are those dimensions you mentioned.
Sure. Well, we live in the third dimension. I mean, you and I right now, we're talking and we can touch our computer. We're on Skype. Skype is a little bit of the fourth dimension. That's why we can't really see the wavelengths or anything. Sometimes we can bring the fourth dimension into the third dimension when we talk about our deceased loved ones and how much we love them, and we create a higher vibration that goes into that fourth dimension, the dream dimension, and we bring some of those thoughts and vibrations into the third dimension, and you'll see lights flicker in a room. That tells you the energy is shifting. There's a dimensional shift, and we've brought some of the fourth dimension into the third dimension. When we go into that dream dimension, the fourth dimension, sometimes we skip to an even deeper dimension, which is the room between realms, which is a fifth dimension, and you can go all the way up. I believe they say there are 9 dimensions above our third dimension, that we live in such a limited dimension. And it would certainly explain why the angelic realm and the realm of our spirit guides and our deceased loved ones is such, has so few limitations. They can actually, come back and see us here. Sometimes we find it difficult to see them. And that's where the sacred dream doors are doorways into those other dimensions.
And I think for people that don't have special abilities, and that would include myself, I'm a paranormal investigator, but I rely on equipment and, voice recorders and that sort of thing. I've had plenty of amazing experiences over the years doing investigating, but I think that's one of the most frustrating things is if you don't have those special abilities, I sometimes I find myself asking, why can't we just communicate with them at our level? Why is it sometimes it feels like it's almost cryptic, or it's so hard to be able to do it? And I know there's a lot of people that say there's ways to learn to tap into that, to raise our vibration. Why is it so difficult for them to come to our level or to communicate with us at this level?
Well, because they're not really allowed to interfere over here. We're busy working on our life purposes. And so that's where the rule of permission is so profound. Our spirit guides, our guardian angels, nobody can really help us unless we ask for it. And that's usually the first door we open when we say to our spirit guides, I really want your help. I really want your guidance. I want to meet you. I want to meet you over here. I know you on the other side, but I'd like to, continue that relationship here, because we're all born with spirit guides and guardian angels. We're their job, and they take that job very seriously. And when we give them permission to help us stay on the right path, if we could see them, they'd be doing a happy dance right there. And many of the patients in the book that I wrote with Dr. Larry Burke out of Duke University Medical and Dreams That Can Save Your Life were not dreamers. They never considered themselves dreamers, and they certainly do not consider themselves psychic or maybe even spiritual. But what really rung their bell and made them realize there were other dimensions other than the ones that we live in right here is what you mentioned, the validation using recordings, things like that. These women, including myself, went to their doctors and said, I know something's wrong. And some of them said, I had a dream, and in the dream, it told me that I have cancer right here. And they took the doctor's marker and made a circle and said, you need to do a needle biopsy right there. And then conventional, three-dimensional scientific medicine here on the earth plane validated the fourth and fifth dimensional dreams. That's your investigative information coming through the dreams. The dreams were validated by information here.
Yeah, it's intriguing. It really is. And the other question I wanted to ask are, how about some of these other energy type works, whether it be meditation, astral projection? Does that take us sometimes into the same realm, the fourth dimension, similar to dreaming?
Yes, it does. And I did in my first book, Surviving Cancerland, the intuitive aspects of healing, which really goes into the dreams I had while I was going through treatment and everything else. And I connected with a group of psychics who wanted to go to the Twin Towers after they had been bombed to help many of the people pass over, because you don't always know you're dead when you're dead right away. You may think that you just got knocked out and then woke up and everything is down around your ears where you were. And if you're angry because you can't get out and you're determined not to be dead because you need to get home to pick your children up from school and get dinner started, you're in a state of denial. And sometimes you will turn your back on your spirit guides who are saying, no, come with me. Come with me. You're done with this now. They have the permission. The people that died have permission to say, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to get back in my body and I am going home. And so this group of psychics actually invited me to astral project with them into the Twin Towers to help some of these people pass over, to accept that they were dead. They couldn't get back into a body that was smashed to smithereens and buried under rubble. Wasn't going to happen. And that was difficult, but it was also, I guess, part of my job, because my spirit guides took me there. And they told me at that time, do not step over the threshold. I had no idea what they were talking about. But in one of the chapters, I write about how I show up, I'm on the staircase, the firemen are running up the staircase, people are running down the staircase, they're blocking the staircase, and I suddenly realize I'm in the building, and the firemen are constantly walking through me and reliving their last moments before that building came down. And unless I changed something on that staircase, they were going to continue in that rerun. And so I asked my guides to please open up the portal. I didn't know how. I don't know how. But help me. Help these people who gave their lives and didn't even know they were dead to help the others. The portal opened and the firemen went right in there. And so and as I followed them up, I heard my spirit guide say, don't step over the threshold. And the portal closed.
That's just amazing. Now, how do you know what that threshold is? Do you just intuitively know when you're in this state?
I handed my safety and myself over to my spirit guides because I looked at it this way. If they'd already saved me from breast cancer once, it was not their intention to take me before my time, that I was doing the work that I was supposed to be doing down here on the earth plane, changing hospital policy, which I did. Now they don't use mammograms to check for recurrence when mammograms didn't work the first time. They also changed some of the protocol that they use when giving chemotherapy to check to see if it's working. So I was doing my job, and I still am doing my job with writing the book with Larry Burke. So I know that I'm on the right path. I'm on the right mission. And by trusting in my spirit guides now, putting my life in their hands and saying, okay, God, I'll go anywhere you want me to go. I'll do anything you want me to do. Just send me with my spirit guides, have them bring me back safely, and I will go without questioning. I will go, but guide me, because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't remember what I'm doing. I know I told you I would do it before I came down here, but I went through the veil of forgetfulness. I don't remember what it is, and I need my spirit guides, guardian angels, and my beloved loved ones on the other side to keep me safe while I'm doing this tremendously dangerous work for humanity. And they did.
You know, you touched on really, this stuff blows my mind. It really does. And one of them was that people sometimes get into this if they don't want to pass on. they get into kind of this loop, especially when it's associated with tragedy. And you hear so many stories, and you've got these two different ideas behind hauntings in the paranormal side of things, and that is intelligent hauntings or residual hauntings. So a residual is what some people say, just something looping or playing, just continuing to go in this endless loop. But, it sounds like it could also be somebody kind of just trapped in replaying this, perhaps this tragic scenario they were a part of.
Right. It's their memories are manifesting. That often happens with murder, and so the trick is to be able to distinguish between memory and reality. In my first book, Surviving Cancerland, I talk about when I'm a little girl living in Berlin, Germany. The wall has gone up. The Berlin Wall went up. And my dad was Special Forces, so they kept him there, even though Special Forces wasn't supposed to be there. He was there. And I was scared to death to go to sleep at night because our buildings, our apartment buildings, had been erected very quickly using whatever materials were available, which included rubble. And if you know anything about the war, World War II, cities like Berlin, Frankfurt, the big cities were razed to the ground. The bombing was so extensive that often they couldn't even dig out the dead bodies. They just stayed there, and they became part of the rubble. And then when these buildings were erected, they became part of the buildings. And so in the middle of the night, I would wake up in a cold, cold sweat because I would smell cigarette smoke, and nobody in my family smoked. And I would hear the German soldiers walking and marching down our hallway, my bedroom hallway, speaking German and laughing. But there was one officer who would stand in my doorway to my bedroom, look down on me, and smoke his cigarette. Now, I knew he was not a rerun. I knew he was not a memory. That ghost was alive.
Wow. It's amazing to think that, they can interact with this. And again, I mentioned that I've had plenty of experience as an investigator. But I'm just wondering, from your sense, is most oftentimes when we are experiencing ghostly activity and hauntings, from your perspective, is most of this intelligent? Are they really people interacting with us? Or do you think some of this stuff is just the residual type stuff?
I think it might be 50-50. I also live on Cape Cod, one of the oldest parts of the country. And Cape Cod's haunted. There's no doubt about it. It's got some of the oldest graveyards. There were mass graves out in the woods because of the flu. People died from the flu in masses, and because there weren't enough people to bury them in, because often they died in the winter when the ground was frozen, they were just put into mass graves, and often they were kept down in their basements until the spring when the ground thawed and they could be buried. So the Cape has a lot of what I call memories wandering around, but there are also a lot of spirits that loved living on Cape Cod. And you also have spirits that died in their sleep when they were sick, especially children. Children often did not leave their parents. That's where the idea of poltergeist came in. They don't leave their parents. They're waiting for their parents. And they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to hang around the house. They see their parents. I don't know why their parents can't see them, but because children are so, they just adjust to everything so quickly, they often find each other in the spirit realm, and they'll hang around and they'll wait. They won't even go with their spirit guides because they've been trained not to go with strangers. So quite often children will hang around till their parents pass over, or they see grandparents they recognize. If they don't know their spirit guides, they won't go with them. So a lot of homes are haunted by children. And children are mischievous, especially if they want to get your attention. They're bored.
Right. That certainly does stand to reason that they would be less willing to step into that. And I've heard some people say it's almost like stepping from one room into the next. You'll hear near-death experiencers use that expression.
It's just like the dream I had. The dream that I had was almost like a near-death experience, in that I was taken by a spirit guide into the room between realms. And that happens also in my first book, Surviving Cancerland. I talk about when my mom comes back to reassure me, and she visits me in that room between realms, and my spirit guides take me through it. And I see her standing with her sister and a group of other women, and believe some of them are her passed over family. And she sees me brought into the room with the spirit guides, and I see her look at me. And I said to the guides, I want to stop because it almost feels like I'm on a conveyor belt going through. And I said, I can't hear my mom. I can't hear my mom. And they said, that's part of the process. But see, I set the intention before I had gone to sleep. I really needed to see my mom. She died 6 months before I was diagnosed with cancer. I needed to know that she was all right. And I didn't want to hang on the belief system of the church, religions, or anything else. It was guides. Give me a clue here. Let me see my mom. I'm not going to go with the old saying of, oh, she's in heaven, she's okay, blah, blah, blah. No, show me. And they did. And there she was, and she saw me, and she mouthed the words, I love you. But I couldn't hear her. And I said to the guide, I can't hear her. And he said, that is part of the process. And then the dream ended.
Wow. Kathleen, I know we're a little bit short on time here. If is there just one really profound story where somebody, and I know you already mentioned the one where the lady had him mark on her where the spot was, where she was told the cancer was. Is there any real quick story, other profound story you can share just in a few minutes with us here as we finish up about somebody whose life was changed as a result of tapping into their dream?
Yeah, there's a girl in the book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life book with Dr. Larry Burke, the second book I wrote, that was all about his breast cancer dream research out of Duke University Medical. And her name was Dana Anderson. And Dana was a young mother, 22 years old. She had a 2-year-old child, a little girl, and she was suffering from ovarian cancer. And she had been in treatment for over a year. And the doctors told her they were done. There was nothing else they could do for her to go home and get her house in order, and figure out who it was she wanted to raise her daughter, that she was going to die pretty soon, like within months. And so she was so sad. She went home, she went to sleep that night, and she had a dream that she called the Silver Spaceship Aliens Saved My Life. And it's actually on page 208 in the book. And she dreamed that she woke up, much like I did again. And there was this spaceship that had landed in her backyard. And she walked out, and there were these little aliens walking out of a silver spaceship. And they, I'm trying to remember what the name of the medicine was that they gave her now. They walked up to her and they said, I know what it is. They walked up to her and they said, you need interferon. And she said, what? They said, you need interferon. Remember that name, interferon. And the medicine looks like this. And they handed her 2 pills in her hand. Then they turned around and walked out of her dream, got back in the spaceship, and spaceship flew away out of her dream. The next morning, she went to her doctor, and she said, look, I know this is going to sound really bizarre, but I had a dream last night, and this is what the dream said. And the doctor looked kind of ashen, and he looked at her, and he said, well, interferon is a medication that's not even on the market. It's still being tested. But let me see if I can get it for you, because you have nothing to lose. We have nothing else to give you. So he did. He got the interferon, gave it to her, and that was 22 years ago. Her cancer disappeared, and her daughter has gotten married and had a grandchild.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing stuff. Well, Kathleen, I know we talked. We've got to wrap up. We're short on time. If you could please share where people can find your work, your website, or any other place where they can find your books or the information about your radio show or anything else.
Sure. You can go to Kathleen, www.Kathleen O Keefe, O-K-E-E-F-E, Kanavos, K-A-N-A, V as in Victor, O-S as in Sam, or you can just type in The Queen of Dreams, The Queen of Dreams, and it will take you to my website. And from my website, you can see all my books that I've written, the national TV and radio shows I've been on, and you'll be able to connect to my radio show on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network out of Boston, Massachusetts, and it's called Dreaming Healing. So you can also type into the search bar Dreaming Healing, and my show will come up, and it is just moved to video. So you'll get to see me as I'm reading people's dreams that are sent to me from my website and interviewing other dreamers on the show.
Amazing stuff, Kathleen. Thank you so much for spending the time to talk with me tonight. It's really been a pleasure to talk with you and hear about this fascinating concept of how we can tap into our dreams and perhaps take away something that might even save our life someday. It truly is intriguing stuff. And once again, thank you so much for joining me, and you have a great night, Kathy.
Well, the pleasure's all mine, Curry. Thanks a million. I hope you'll tune into my show. Call me with one of your dreams.
Would love to. And we'll have to check that out. All right. Thank you so much again, Kathy. Well, a big thanks to Kathleen for joining me on the show. She was an amazing guest, and what an intriguing topic, how our dreams, how we can tap into our dreams, and perhaps what our dreams may be telling us. And it's just such a fascinating topic, and I really loved having that discussion with her. Please don't miss next episode when I will have accomplished paranormal investigator Jack Canna joining me. And Jack is the author of a couple of books to include Paranormal Research, a comprehensive guide to building a strong team. So looking forward to having that discussion with Jack on the show, so don't miss that episode. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, everybody, and have a great night.